power. Fight the power. Fight the power.
That's Fight the Power by Public Enemy, the iconic song that ranked #2 in Rolling Stone's list of the 500 greatest songs of all time. This week marks the 50th anniversary of hip-hop, and the co-founding member of Public Enemy, Chuck D, is shedding new light on the genre's roots. In June, an intersection in the South Bronx was renamed after a gang member who was killed there while trying to break up a fight back in 1971 when New York City was rife with gang violence. But his group chose to pursue peace instead of revenge in the wake of his murder, shifting from violence to unity against systemic oppression and paving the way for the dawn of hip-hop. That story and the movement that emerged in its aftermath is now the subject of a new podcast series entitled Can You Dig It? A Hip-Hop Origin Story. And Chuck D, who narrates the new podcast, joins us now along with co-creator Pete Shalala. Also with us for the discussion is president of the National Action Network and host of MSNBC's Politics Nation, Reverend Al Sharpton. Morgan Radford, Ari Melber, and John Heilman are all still with us as well.
Reverend Al, we take it to you as the godfather of souls. Well, were you his manager or his minder? I'm not sure.
I believe that's the past.
I
was more like his son. I never, he wouldn't let me get into the business because he wanted me to stay in civil rights and a preacher. But let me go to Chuck. Chuck and I go way back, and I think it is probably a blessing that we're both sitting in the studio because we're both now 5 or 6 years apart. I don't think we thought we'd get to this age when we were growing up.
But you, the energy in that movement that made that thing happen, the Fight the Power thing, without you, that doesn't take up the speed and momentum. And here we are in Hip Hop 50. And the thing about it, to be here with Lights, Camera, Action, Pete, Shalala, the seed of it, talk about the seed of what hip hop grew up out of. That's what was really important.
But what I wanted you to elaborate on is that hip hop not only changed music,
yes,
it changed the social movement. In '89, when you came out with the group Fight the Power,
yes, sir,
a young man named Yusuf Hawkins had been killed in Brooklyn for being black in a white neighborhood. And when we started the marches that you talk about, I led, We Shall Overcome didn't fit us. We were out of the North, I was out of Brooklyn, you was out of the Bronx. Fight the Power became the soundtrack to the urban movement that later became Barack Obama and all of that. Talk about the social impact of hip-hop and that whole era that gave a cultural bend to a northern urban version of what had been going on in the South.
Well, we didn't invent the energy. I think a lot of the times the synergy of that period was a lot of people and a lot of different things also calling for a different time. The city had left a lot of us for naught, for dead in many cases. It was lopsided, one-sided politics, and not even looking at us at all. But we have people like you, movers and shakers that were heard in black radio at the time. So WLIB was really a fuel for me, hearing Gary Bird, hearing people like John Hendrick Clark on the radio. Right. And that gave me enough fuel to say, well, these are real people doing real things, saying real things in a community that's ignored by the city. And so therefore the issues that were in the city at the particular time were highlighted. What could we add to it culturally? How could we actually be that other voice that's coming through if we don't get any time on the radio stations? This is what we're getting from a talk radio station that's talking about the issue that we could put a soundtrack to. No different than the Godfather of Soul. There's an issue, there's a problem. I'm gonna put a beat to it, get funky. Yeah, you dancing, but you throwing your fists in the air.
All right, and if you watch Ari Melber's show, The Beat, on MSNBC, you know that he can dig it. Ari, you've got the next question.
Some law, a lot of lyrics. Go ahead, Ari.
Some law, a lot of lyrics. We'll remember that, Joe. Chuck, great to see you guys again. Congratulations on this project, Hip Hop 50. It's important time to reflect. I wonder if you could tell us about the power of storytelling, because everyone knows in politics, narrative matters. Obama was able to actually write his own narrative, his own autobiography along the way that introduced himself differently than the way maybe the country had seen minority candidates in the past. You're a master storyteller. People are indebted to these artists for these stories. And yet it's important, as we reflect in the news, that at the time, you just alluded to New York and certain neighborhoods being left behind by the government. Much of hip hop, as you know, was maligned and not listened to at the time. But the story about inequality, about police brutality, about violence in the neighborhood in a way that didn't fit with the right-wing narrative, but was true to your experience. The stories turned out largely, if I may, to be true and prophetic. Tell us about the power of hip hop storytelling and what that means now as more of mainstream culture looks at it during this anniversary.
Well, I'm going to pass the baton to P. Shalala, where the story has been there. How can we actually have a multi-dimensional kick on the story that actually takes it into the future? This story had been there for a long time, which was the pre-seed of hip-hop, which created hip-hop in the first place, because it was a neighborhood that was left for naught, like I said before. So Peter, take it, because Pete brought me the story, and we kind of like, there was a lot of myth going on. There's a lot of mythology still floating around. What we wanted to do is anchor and bring it to the ground for everybody to hear and see and experience. And that's what Pete brought to the table, where I happen to be a voice for, because he wrote it well, put it together well, and there's nobody better than him to bring it home exactly how that happened.
Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate you guys giving us a voice. This is an aha moment kind of story. This is a global aha moment. And it's rooted, Ari, in politics, policy, and urban planning. So when we started pulling the texture back of the story of hip hop, the dawn is 1973, it's Herc's Party, but there would be no Herc's Party without peace in the Bronx. And we bring the story back to Robert Moses. If he didn't carve through the Bronx with a 6-lane highway called the Cross Bronx, it wouldn't have burned. Thousands of kids would not have joined gangs, and the death of Black Benji would have been avoided. But that didn't happen. And these kids weren't in gangs. And Benji was murdered trying to keep the peace. And then his gang was given this decision: do we retaliate and just like lay down the law here? There's 2,500 Ghetto Brothers. They'd probably do a good job finishing it off. Or do we actually push for peace? And for Mika, Women for Peace, this story is also going back to the fingerprints of powerful mentor women. Evelina Antonetti, who started United Bronx Parents, was a big influence on these kids. Rita Fetcher, who was a teacher from Chelsea, would go up to the Bronx and teach these kids art and give them hope and confidence. She always said the smartest kids are on the street. And then Black Benji's mother, Evelina Antonetti, when given the choice to retaliate, she said, I want to stop the cycle of violence and tip these guys in to the Hoe Avenue peace treaty. So we always say no peace, no hip hop. No murder of Black Benji, no decision, no peace, no cool Herc Party. And we just want to give credit to the people and the kids that made those decisions and did the impossible, which they basically changed the world.
And nothing starts from itself. Like Pete said, there's a community behind everything. And then when you talk about positive movement, it's almost like you're climbing up a mountain. So you have to have the energy, the power, the backing, and the collective voice of a people to make something happen. So hip hop is all over the world. We're celebrating the 50th year. That's a tremendous achievement, but it does not come without the effort of community heads and leaders that gave a voice to power.
Chuck said in an interview with Billboard that
Chuck,
story. Oh, sorry, John, go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. Hey, Chuck, I want to pick up actually right on where you were at. And, I think you and I have talked about this before. You did a podcast a few years ago where you told the story of The Clash.
Right.
And the story of The Clash and the rise of punk rock in London and England are roughly at the same time as this story is happening, unfolding in New York, the rise, the birth of hip hop and all the stuff we've been talking about today. The political, social context that gave rise to punk is the same one that gave rise to hip hop. Now we're 50 years later. Talk a little bit about the state of hip hop today. We have an incredibly polarized, we have a social, cultural context in which you would think that political music arising out of politics, whether that's in hip hop or rock or whatever, you would think that you would be seeing a very vital resurgence in that. But instead, we don't really see that quite to the degree that we did in the 70s and certainly in the 80s, around the time that Public Enemy was so powerful. So talk about where we are today and why there's not more politics and social commentary still in hip hop.
Well, you got millions, tens of millions of people recording right now. You know, Morgan could tell you inside her music, she's streaming 10 million songs. So people are recording all the time. We need better curators to curate who's saying what and bring it to the forefront. But there are efforts out there. There's people that's looking at concerns and writing a song and recording it the same night. So we need better curators and situations. Now, the reason why this is different from 1989 is simply because people come and go. The same people that was in the mix in 1989, many of them are not here, and new people have grown into being into the mix today as adults. And so therefore, you always have to fight the power because the isms remain, like staying in the pockets. So that's why you got to keep going at it, and you bring people with the energy. You know, people like Pete that says, hey, I think this story needs to be told. I always told a New Yorker, I said, sometimes you could find out your status just by reading the names on the street. So that Black Benji has a street. So once, you know, we say, well, if I know what, if I'm looking at a Skimmerhorn street, it behooves you to figure out who that is. Mm-hmm. Well, Black Benji has a street, figure out who that is. And if you can't figure it out, that means this metropolitan area needs to step up on its education of just where we at. You know, just educating New Yorkers on New York will give us a leg up on keeping that momentum and that movement and energy.